A very warm evening to everyone present here today. As we gather here to celebrate the momentous occasion, the 70th year of the Indian Constitution. Today, we celebrate this milestone, reflecting on the journey we've undertaken and reframing our commitments to the principles that bind us together as Indians. To begin our celebration, I would like to invite our beloved HOD, School of Maritime Management, Rajeshri ma'am, to grace the stage and deliver the welcome speech. Good morning, one and all. Any event will get its meaning and pride having the right person as a chief guest. Sir, we are proud because of your presence. It is our pleasure and honor to welcome our guest, Honorable Justice Devan Ramachandran sir. Sir, it is a great honor for us to introduce you, sir. Honorable Justice Devan Ramachandran is a distinguished judge serving on the Kerala High Court. Honorable Justice Devan Ramachandran sir's contribution extended to environmental conservation, women's rights, and public safety. He has been recognized for his progressive judgment and continues to uphold the principles of justice and equality in his role on the Kerala High Court. Welcome you, sir. I extend my warm welcome to our respectful Director Sir, Rear Admiral S.N. Almenda Sir, who is always motivating and encouraging and giving highest support to conduct any sort of event. And I extend my welcome to HOD of Nautical Science, all the faculty members of Management and Nautical Science, all the admin staffs, and my dear students. Welcome you all. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am, for your inspiring words. Now, it is our distinct honor to have with us today a distinguished legal luminary, a champion of justice, and a true inspiration, Honorable Mr. Justice David Ramachandran sir. I now request our Honorable Mr. Justice David Ramachandran sir to address the gathering.
Okay, good evening. The aphorism you say without much of an ado was absolutely true today. I just sat and I'm asked to speak straight away. So you don't waste time, I can see that. That's great to you. Thank you for inviting me to this beautiful campus. I've never been here before. I think I have not even seen it, though I have passed this way when I was traveling to Ireland or something years ago. I have not been traveling this way for long, for the last several years now. Great to see all of you. None of you are legal students, you are not law students. You are, ma'am. You are a professor of law. You teach here? You teach constitution? Now, I was asking for the tagline. Hamara Samvidhan is our constitution. And Hamara Swabhiman, that is a translation to our pride. It truly is. And I try and present to you a constitution which is so brilliant and so remarkable. I always call it the finest in the world. And I explain to you and I justify to you to the extent I can as a lawyer, because we are known for our arguing skills and persuasion. Our constitution, I start by saying, is the finest in the world. There is no constitution which can beat us, and this is why we have still continued to be such a great nation in 75 years. I just tell you what a constitution is. This is something which even lawyers do not really recollect every day, or they don't even remember this on a regular basis. Constitution is the highest law of our land. Constitution is also a law. It's called the Grundnorm. It's a German word. It says the highest law of the land. It's a Grundnorm. There is no other law bigger than the Constitution as far as our country is concerned. It is that law on which every other law is tested. So it is a Grundnorm. It is the biggest law. It is not something that came out of the heavens. It's something that we give ourselves. We gave ourselves the Constitution being the first law when we became a nation. And it is on that Constitution we test every other law that is promulgated or passed by the legislatures or the parliament. I'll explain. I'm sure that you will find it slightly difficult to understand these concepts because you are not really into the principles of law. But then, as an Indian, I'm glad that you have invited me to speak on the Constitution, because whatever walk of life that you are in, it doesn't matter whether you are a lawyer or otherwise. You are bound by the Constitution, and therefore you are expected to know the Constitution. And the Constitution is important not because of the rights that it gives you, but because it stipulates the duties you are bound to honor. And this is something which we never recognize. Even in my court, if you come to my court, I've been a judge for about 9 years now. I've been a lawyer for 26 years prior to that, so it's 34 years now, or 35. Every litigation starts by saying, my right is violated. I have a right, and that right is not being given to me, it's violated. Please enforce it. And that's the writ that has been sought from us. But I have never seen a case where somebody would come to me and say, my duty, I have a duty to perform, please allow me to do my duty. That's because not many people even know that there is a Part 4 capital A, which is fundamental duties and not fundamental rights alone. I'll take you through all that quickly. I will not take too much of time. I'm sure you've had a long day today with all the lecturing and all that. I will not try to make it lecture. But I'm just trying to tell you what the Constitution is. I started by saying it's the finest Constitution. Now, all of you have your devices with you. Constitution is a pretty long document. I believe it is about 449 articles today, with 25 parts, maybe 12 appendixes, schedules, and about 4 or 5 appendices. So you can't read the Constitution every day. But I'll tell you the next best. There is something called the preamble. Please take the preamble. It's one of the finest drafted preambles you can ever set your eyes on. Preamble is something that distills the entire Constitution into one paragraph. There's a long verbose kind of a Constitution. It's about 145,000 words, and therefore our Constitution becomes the longest in the Constitution, except next to the Constitution of Alabama or some state like that. Otherwise, ours is the longest Constitution. That's because we have the highest population. It's justified. We are on record 1.4 billion. We are the highest populated country in the world. We have overtaken China officially also. So if you see the preamble, please take the preamble if you have the devices with you. Please read the preamble, and all that you have to do is to just go through the preamble. You will understand what the Constitution is. It starts by saying, we the people of India. How many of you have read the Constitution? At least the preamble. Okay, a director is out of the picture. You are expected to. You are a naval veteran. So the Constitution starts. The preamble of the Constitution starts by saying, we the people of India, and ends by saying, we hereby give to ourselves the Constitution on the 26th of November 1949. This is why I said the Constitution is not something that came from the heavens. The Constitution was given by us to ourselves through a constituent assembly. I just briefly take you through that also. So now take the Constitution, the preamble of the Constitution. It starts by saying, we the people of India, having solemnly resolved. Have you gone through it? to give to us this constitution and to ensure every citizen justice. There are three words used for justice: economic, political, and social, economic, and political. And then it talks about ensuring to every citizen. I'm sorry, I must start by saying how the constitution, how the preamble starts. Start by saying we have to the constitution is a sovereign, social, secular, democratic republic. So it defines what our nation is. It defines what kind of nation we are creating. It is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Every one of those words have great meaning. When you say sovereign, it is opposed to monarchy. And I've been on record speaking on the constitution and on in many events, and possibly it is available in the public arena also. I've said when we say we are constituent, we are sovereign. It really means that every one of us are sovereign. Every citizen, there's 1.4 billion citizens. You, me, everybody, the person on the streets, homeless, up to the president of India. We are the sovereign. We are the most powerful constituent of this nation. Every one of us are sovereign. And this is why India is not a monarchy. It is an anti-distinction to the word monarchy. So we are sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Republic really defines what we are. It means that we are the sovereign as a people and not the monarchy. So that is where the sovereign and the republic becomes very, very important. And to promote and to ensure to every citizen, I said justice. It's been a long time since I read the preamble, though I remember it by heart. It says justice, social, economic, and political, and then equality of status, opportunity, of liberty of thought, expression, belief, worship, and to promote amongst all fraternity, ensuring the dignity of individual and the unity and integrity of India. Now this takes in everything that a nation requires. If you look at it, each word you look at it, you will see that this really encompasses what really a nation is. I'll tell you one more thing. The constitution, though verbose, it's slightly vast, it's written very lucid. Just as the preamble that I just said, which says justice is defined under three words, three definitions or three constituents are given: social, economic, and political. Equality of status and opportunity. And then belief, worship, that's the liberty, belief, worship, thought. Now the reason why the constitution is so easily worded is that it becomes capable of dynamic exposition. This is why the Constitution of India has survived the 75 or 76 years, where many other constitutions of the world have collapsed. There are several countries, you can go through the internet, you will find a list of countries where constitutions have failed in 5, 6, 7, 8 years. But we have survived for 75 years and more. I'm sure that we will survive for another 75, if not 750 years. The reason is this, that a constitution is capable of a dynamic exposition. It can evolve dynamically. And that is what has been done. You know, talking about a constitution, there is something very interesting. This constitution has been borrowed from about 24 other constitutions. So therefore, some people ridicule us asking us, how do you call this constitution so very powerful when it has been borrowed from so many constitutions? No doubt. I myself call it a bag of borrowings. The constitution has inputs from so many other constitutions. For example, the preamble starts by saying, we the people of India. If you see the American constitution starts by saying, we the people of America. So we have borrowed from there. The bicameral system, the parliamentary system that we are now having of the parliament and the legislatures, we are borrowing from UK. The fundamental rights, we are borrowing from Ireland. Fundamental duties, which is a country that would give so much important duties. Germany, we borrowed fundamental duties from Germany, the 42nd Amendment. We did not have duties until then. So we were almost like a rights-based society without any duties being cast upon us. That was a lacuna, and that was then addressed by the 42nd Amendment, bringing in Article 4, that's Part 4, Capital A. I talk about the duties also. There is one article that I always talk about when I speak to especially youngsters. So therefore, the Constitution is something that rapidly evolves. Sure, your professor will also tell you that next time. It's something that is capable of evolving, and therefore, when people ask me, some people ask me, you say that the Constitution is so strong and powerful. They say, how is it that 105 amendments have happened. How is it that it has become so many large? Because it started with 395 articles, it's about 448 or 49 articles. And we ask you, why is it that you say your constitution is so powerful when it has had so many amendments? The answer is implicit. It is only the strong which can change. The weak can never change. It is the strong amongst us that we will evolve. It is the strong that will keep growing. And that is our constitution. Our constitution is inherently so strong that it is capable of encompassing changes going by the times, changing times. And I'll tell you why there is a change. Please understand when the constitution came to be. It started in 1946-47. We adopted it in 1950, but it was ready in 1949. Can you imagine what India was in 1949? Can you even imagine what India was in 1949? Is it the India that we see today? Is it the Bharat that we see today? It was so different. And imagine you are expected to make a constitution that would last ages. That is the time when there was poverty, so much. We had just gone through the thrones of the partition. The requirements were different. The aspirations were totally different. We did not visualize the nation as we see today. We needed something that would bind all these people together. The adhesive that puts all of us together is the Constitution. But for our Constitution, I do not know what would have happened to our nation. So forget about those people who say that the Constitution is not strong or the Constitution is something that is irrelevant or something. Don't listen to them. They don't know what they're saying. Go by the biblical word. Lord, they do not know what they're saying. Our Constitution is still the finest. It's always the finest. And the reason is that it is capable of evolving. So the Constitution, when it was made in the year 1949, when it was drafted in the year finally drafted, we were looking at a nation which was so different. And imagine the same Constitution is able to cover us and guide us in 2025. That is the real power of that Constitution. The thoughtfulness that went into it. And it is nothing very unusual or surprising because we had a Constituent Assembly. Have you heard of the Constituent Assembly? In fact, Professor, you should be allowing them to read the Constituent Assembly debates. It's the finest debates that you can get, not the television debates that you see these days. They are not debates at all. You read the Constituent Assembly debates, you will see the level to which, the profundity to which our statesmen then had taken and had actually elevated that skill to what levels, what sublime levels they had. So if you read this Constituent Assembly debates, you will see the inputs that were put in based on the requirements of India at that time. And our constitution still has provisions for wells, for horse carts, cow carts and all that. That's because that was what was seen in the year 1949, where we required those more than anything else at that relevant time. But today, we are in a completely different realm. But this constitution still binds us and guides us. And that is why I said the Constitution is the most powerful. As I said, many of the constitutions are failed. Many constitutions are still struggling. Our Constitution is going very, very strong. We are one nation because of our Constitution. It is certainly our pride, Swabhiman. Without the Constitution, we are nothing. And that is why I thought every one of you, whether you are lawyers or otherwise, it doesn't matter because you are the sovereigns. You are part of the Republic called Bharat. And therefore, you are expected to know the Constitution and you should know the Constitution for the singular reason that it is the Constitution that guides every one of us. Now, when I am introduced, it's a formality to say big things about me. They're all lies, but doesn't matter. But when they introduce me, they say that this judge has done that. He's the guardian of liberty and all that. But I tell you one thing: we don't do anything very extraordinary. We are just doing what the Constitution wants us to do, what the Constitution obligates us to do. If you say good things about me, then please understand that I am doing it because the Constitution enjoins me to do that. This is what I am expected to do. There is nothing extraordinary in what I am doing. I am just doing what I am expected to do. Therefore, please understand that Part 4, Capital A of the Constitution is extraordinarily relevant. They are the fundamental duties. There are several provisions requiring an Indian citizen to have scientific temper, which you are all possibly aware. But there is one sub-article which I thought I must really share with you. The article of the containing the fundamental duties is Article 51 capital A. It has several sub-articles. I will request you to go through sub-article J. Sub-article J. Has anybody got an idea what sub-article J is 51 capital A? Excellent. You have the device, sir? Okay. Now, the point is this. We say that India is the finest. A nation becomes finest when its people are the finest. It's as simple as that. And no nation can be greater than its citizens. The chink in the armor, as you would possibly say, are our own. And therefore, Article 51 capital A J requires every citizen to be excellent. It is not a choice. You have no choice. You are obligated. You are under a duty to be excellent. What does that mean to you? You have no choice. If you are in India, you are governed by the Constitution, and the Constitution requires you to be excellent. There is no choice. So this is why I said we should go through that article, that part 4A, which is the fundamental duties, which unfortunately many of us don't even look at. But then when you talk about excellence, we are not talking about competition. Excellence does not mean that I overtake the person in front of me. That is not excellence. Excellence is finding the best avatar of myself. Excellence is looking for the best version of yourself. If I were to tell you, I started my career as a lawyer in 1991. If I were to tell you that I am as good a lawyer as I was in 1991 as I am today, would you call that progress? I would call it stagnation. For me, progress is when I can wake up tomorrow, see the mirror, and tell myself, this is a version of which was better than it was yesterday. And that is the kind of progress that we are looking at. And therefore, as students, you are not expected to compete with somebody else, but you are expected to compete with yourself. You have to find excellence. You have to find worth to yourself, add value to yourself. These are some taglines which are very, very passionate to me. And this is not something that I am telling you for the first time. This is something I have heard growing up, where I have been told that your true province as a citizen, as an individual, as a professional as you would be, or even in a calling that you would take yourself to. Your true province is to be excellent within the capacity that you have. You don't, being under the Constitution of India, as I said, under sub-article J, you have no excuse not to be excellent because it is your duty to. And therefore, when you are in the race, I don't know if you have heard about it, it's the old Bernard Shaw famous quotation. He said, if you are in a rat race, it doesn't matter whether you win because you still are a rat. So you are not to be in a rat race, you are to be in a race with yourself. And the best thing of being in a race with yourself under the Constitution is very simple. Even if you overtake the person in front of you, suppose you are in competition with the person in front of you, you overtake that person, the race is over. But for us, the race begins the day we are born until the last day we leave this earth. When you are in India, you are in a race with yourself. You are in a race to find the best version of yourself every day, every passing day. This puts a great amount of responsibility on every citizen. How many of us know this? Many of us don't even think about it, don't even recognize it, and don't even think it is necessary. But that is not the way the Constitution tells us. And if you believe in the Constitution, then you must believe in yourself. You are the Constitution. You drive the Constitution. It is every one of us who is responsible for making the Constitution what it is. And it is us who are now the drivers of this nation. We are all nation builders. And the moment, the way you are, when you understand that the Constitution guides you, you become nation builders for excellence, as every one of us are expected to be. This, in crux, is the Constitution. How many of us really understand the Constitution as a law? And I said, as a judge, Constitution is the highest law on which every other law is tested. I'll tell you what it is. Suppose tomorrow there is a law that is made by the legislature. Suppose there is a law which says that I can take away your property without any compensation to you. That will be tested on the constitutional principles. It comes as a litigation before the High Court or the Supreme Court. Judges like us are then obligated to consider that, to verify whether that law comes within the perimeters and parameters of the constitutional requirements. If you have to find otherwise, we strike down the law. If you have to find that it is, then we uphold it. This is why the constitution vests so much of power in the courts also. And I say this very jovially. I say that the most powerful component or the section of the constitution perhaps is section 1313. The framers of the constitution did not have the fear of 13. What is the technical name for the fear of 13? Triskaidekaphobia. So I say the framers of the constitution never had triskaidekaphobia because Article 13 of the constitution is the power given to the courts for judicial review. It is that power which decides whether a law should be allowed to remain or whether it should be set aside. That power is given to courts. So when the legislature passes and promulgates or passes a legislation, that legislation can be brought before the courts by any one of you sitting here. Because that law, if it affects you, detrimentally or otherwise, you get the power to bring it to the court. And when you challenge it before the court, we judicially review it to verify whether it answers the requirements of the constitution. And as I said, if it doesn't, we set it aside. This is why the Indian constitution is far more powerful than even the US constitution. Because in the United States constitution, there is no power of review given. That power was judicially wrestled by the courts, by the Supreme Court, in a case, it's a famous case called Marbury versus Madison. So the Supreme Court, the US Constitution never gave the power to the courts to judicially review legislations. But finally, the Supreme Court found that it was necessary, and it took it upon itself through a judicial pronouncement. But our Constitution gives it to us, which means what is a court actually? The courts are you. You are the drivers of our system. We are here for you. We are merely under trust of the people. We are public servants, every one of us. I am not a civil servant. I don't work for the government. I am completely independent of the government and expected to be. And therefore, I call myself a public servant. Every one of you sitting here is my servant. And me in my personal capacity is my master when I work as a judge. So, as a public servant, again, we act under the confines of the Constitution. This is why the Constitution is so important, and this is why the Constitution is so powerful. I can possibly go on because, believe me, I have just touched upon 5% or 10% of what a Constitution should be defined. I am leaving it there. I leave it to your professor to take it forward if you have anything to say in the days to come. But please read the Constitution whenever you have the time. Now, I am not saying you read the articles. Read about the Constitution. It's such a beautiful work. It's such a powerful exposition. You must really give it hats off to the framers of the Constitution, Balasaheb Ambedkar, who was the chairman of the Constituent Assembly. But it is not Ambedkar alone. Every person who was part of the Constituent Assembly. That's why I said, whenever you have the time, and I don't know if it is available on your devices, on the internet, please read the Constituent Assembly debates. Look at the levels to which they were thinking. Look at the thinking levels and the ability. Something that we markedly miss these days. Unfortunately, your generation is possibly more used to the television, the acrimony that you find. They are not debates. And I can say this because I am a Malayali, as many of you are. And we are in the land of the greatest debater of all time, Adi Shankar. So, as members or citizens of Kerala, from where we have the biggest debater, Adi Shankar, we should be really proud of our Constituent Assembly because I have not seen any debate which is on a higher plane than what you can read in the Constituent Assembly debates. Please read it whenever you have the time. Am I to take questions? I can. Anybody can ask it, there's not a problem. And use that because in a court you can never ask a judge. It's already 6:15 or so. Everybody would want to go home. Is this a residential complex or people? Okay. Oh, sorry. No wonder.
Sir, can you elaborate a little bit on striving for excellence? And second thing, we are using the word integrity in the constitution. That is, I think, is the more broad-based. Can you just give some thought on?
Where is integrity used in the constitution? I'm not sure. But integrity is a moral value. So, I believe that the Indian constitution is rooted in the Indian ethos. Our constitution, though borrowed from so many other constitutions, is actually underpinned on something we recognize as being Indian. The ethos of being an Indian is completely different from people who be in any other country. So our constitution believes a lot in empathy. If you see the way the constitution works, I'll give you an example. You've all heard that there's a common complaint about Indian courts that we take a long time, the litigations are kept pending and things like that. There are two components to this. One is the number of cases that are increasing, and that really shows that people have trust in us, in the system. Whatever be the deficiencies that you may say, the factor of all of us doing about 100. Personally, I've done about 120 matters in division bench today. I'm heading a division bench, which means two judges. And to say that I've dealt with 120 cases today, it really speaks about the trust that the people have on us. And the second reason is that we believe so much in empathy. For example, to make you understand. Now, every statute says that you must file a case within maybe 30 days. Alright? 30 days. It's called limitation. Many other countries, many other jurisdictions, particularly Singapore and all those places, if you go to a court with 31 days, it is rejected. We would possibly allow a petition filed after 3 years. Because we look at the cost and we understand that there is a lot of empathy for the client. And we have a lot of sympathy, empathy, it's not sympathy really, the empathy for the cost that takes us forward. And that is unique to India. This is why India is different from many other jurisdictions. And therefore, integrity, righteousness, these are all principles that should really govern us because everything else is very ephemeral. If you gain something in breach of these, the fundamental ethics and the principles that we follow, you can take it for granted that you will possibly have a 15 minutes of fame and nothing more, nothing less. It will crumble one way or the other. When you create that foundation of, being honest to yourself, honest to the cause, honest to the country, honest to everybody else, and when you then underpin it or edifice it on righteousness, on rectitude, on certitude, on all those principles that I grew up hearing my father telling me. And I remember I say this to students very often. I say, when I was very young, my father would start the day by telling me that if money is lost, nothing is lost. If health is lost, something is lost. But if character is lost, everything is lost. There were days when I would not even like to see my father because the moment I run to him in the house, he would tell me the same. But today, I understand how important it was for me to understand that character is what defines each of us. Not the money, not the position, not the power. Nothing defines you the way character does. You are not defined by the job that you do. You are not defined by the power that you have. You are defined by the manner in which you deal with them. And that requires character. The old aphorism, this is actually a Chinese one, which I believe is anonymous. It really links the thought to your character. It says, be careful of your thoughts because your thoughts becomes your words. Be careful of your words because words becomes your actions. Be careful of your actions because actions become your habits. Be careful of your habits because habits become your character. And be careful of your character because character defines your destiny. What you will be, where you will be, is defined by your character. These are not empty words. Take it from me. These are things that you are fed into. And if you give me the credit of doing something good in what I have done, it is merely because of my seniors who have told me to be strong to my character, unflinching to the character, and that really is integrity. And that then takes you to the quest of excellence because the moment you are on that path, you are on the right path. I said, adding value to yourself. That's very important. Please keep that in your mind. Adding value to yourself. Keep adding value to yourself every day. Every experience should be used by you. Even the moments that you spend here, it may be slightly boring. I know. Many of you are already showing signs. I generally speak to my audience without removing my eye contact. I can see many of you who are already. It's a tedium because you've had a whole day. But then understand that this also gives you a lot of experience. This is the experience that makes you a larger, a whole of man. Yeah.
I have a humble question. I heard Indian constitution is rigid, and actually you said it is flexible to amend also. Can you please clarify?
Indian constitution is far from being rigid. It is the most flexible and dynamic of every constitution in the world and ever will be. This is why we have had 106 amendments. When you pass an era, you require something else tomorrow. Now, imagine, we are in the era of artificial intelligence, AI. Did anybody even visualize AI in 1949? Our constitution takes care of AI. It can take care of AI. And we will make amendments if required. Our constitution easily amends. But, if you have heard of Keshavananda Bharati versus state of Kerala, one of the most eminent of cases, it started from Kerala. Keshavananda Bharati Swami was the Badativati of the mud in Kasaragod. He is actually equated to a Shankaracharya. Keshavananda Bharati went to the Supreme Court against the Land Reforms Act, and there is a very interesting tidbit. I'll say that after I finish this. And Swamiji went to the Supreme Court, and that gave rise to the biggest and the most powerful judgment of all times, which said Constitution has certain basic structure. For example, I said Republic. No amendment to the Constitution can stop us being a republic. We cannot be made into a monarchy. It calls us sovereign. Nothing in the constitutional amendment can ever take it away. And if there is any such constitutional amendment, the courts will strike it down. This is why I said Article 13 is so powerful. So we are extraordinarily dynamic, but we know what we want. Our ethos as a nation is very, very strong, and therefore there are some things which cannot be amended. And talking about Keshavananda Bharati, I do not know how many of you know about him. He is a man who is brilliant in Yakshagana. He went to the Supreme Court when he was 16 or 17 as the Madhaval. So 4 years ago, I think it's before COVID, so it's possibly 19 or 20. I was invited to felicitate Keshavananda Bharati Swami at Trivandrum. Now I was confused. I was not sure if it was the same individual because it is like a post that keeps succeeding. Then I went there. I met him. He was about 60 something. So he was the same Swamiji who actually went to the Supreme Court. And the interesting thing is, Swamiji was sitting next to me, such a very simple, humble man. He said, "Sir, I do not know why I am so famous." Because his name became, when we talk about that constitutional case, as lawyers we argue, when we argue, we say, when we refer to a judgment, we refer to the judgment by the person whose name the judgment is recorded. So we say in Keshavananda Bharati, or we say in Keshavananda Bharati. So this word Keshavananda Bharati, this name, is taken in every court in India, at least in the High Courts and Supreme Court, at least 10 times every day. So this man is so famous, he doesn't know why he is famous, because his name has become synonym to that judgment. So this is how the Constitution evolves, where the courts also, we also do a lot of legislation actually, though we are not intending to be a legislation. Take it from me, the Constitution of India is the most dynamic, it will always be. That's why I said it will last another 75 years, if not 750 years. Just say, please.
Very good evening, sir. Sir, I am Amar Gupta. Sir, I had a very basic question, currently considering the digital aspects and the privacy concerns. So, there are many times that wherever we go, everyone asks for their Aadhaar card. And basically the students, parents is separate story, but basically the students, and if any student like me gives my Aadhaar card number, it has each and every data linked to it. It has my father's name, it has my address, phone number, everything. So if someone is forcing by telling us to do it, what is the way to get out of it? And what are the places where we should not actually give? Like supposedly, recently it happened at a entry gate, I would say.
No, this has got nothing to do with Constitution, but
Yeah.
it is linked. No, you are wrong. It is linked. I'll tell you why. You've heard of privacy? You've heard of that? Do you know that right to privacy is a fundamental right? Right to privacy is a fundamental right, which means I have a fundamental right to privacy. Nobody can breach it. Nobody can force you. So wherever you are required to use your cards, wherever, the concomitant obligation of the state is to ensure that your identity, your details are never disclosed. For example, some years ago, a matter came to me, I was sitting in division again. It was a case where a foreign company was trying to access our health records. The High Court, I authored that order. We said that you will have to anonymize the entire data. We said we will not let any of this data go to the net. And the company went away. The company did not want to do that. Their interest was because data is now the most powerful or the most valuable, tangible or intangible asset ever for any country, for any group also. So when you use your Aadhaar card, there is an obligation on you to ensure that you do it with your brain on. You have to know where you have to use it. You've been hearing this data theft and you've been hearing about this online arrest and all that. Unfortunately, I don't carry my phone, so I don't get a call directly. My phone is always accessed by my fellows. I'm waiting for a call to come to me saying that, Mr. So-and-so, you are under arrest. I'm waiting for it. I have not got it. The nearest we got was when my wife got a call when I was in Vizag. And the poor thing cut the call. I said, why did you cut the call? She said, given it to me. I would have at least known how it is to be arrested digitally. This is all humbug because there is nothing called digital arrest in the first place. But tragically, a gentleman, a great industrialist or an entrepreneur, he gave away 7 crores when he was threatened with a digital arrest. You know why? Because the Chief Justice of India came online. It's called deep faking or whatever we may call it. Imagine that man's plight. He is opening his phone, he sees the Chief Justice of India telling him, Mr. So-and-so, you are finished. This man transfers 7 crores. So this is where the new age, technology really intrudes into us. And here is where our brain and not the artificial brain. Artificial intelligence is always artificial. Our intelligence is always our intelligence. There can be nothing beyond the human intelligence. You're required to have a lot of diligence when you deal with all this. Never use your cards. I tell some people, I say, never use your, this is the age where everything is on the internet. It's either Facebook or what is it called? Instagram. I am a complete novice to all this. I am not on social media at all. So I've seen students and children sit somewhere. They get the dish in front of them in a restaurant. They don't eat. They take a clip. They put it on the net, get their likes, and then start eating. So eating is not the important thing. The important thing is to put it there, and then when you share so much of information, you really have to be very careful. I always say the small tidbits. Never use your full name along with your date of birth. Never do that. Suppose you disclose your date of birth, but we are now completely immune to that because if you see the net, some site or the other, maybe Wikipedia would give you what my name is and my date of birth. But that's a problem with the systems now. But then, as a citizen, you don't have to disclose your date of birth. You don't have to disclose your identity. You don't have to disclose your Aadhaar cards or credentials. You have to be really diligent doing that. But answering your question from the constitutional perspective, you have a right to privacy. You can choose not to give it, except if you are sure that that information will be dealt with the kind of diligence that is required. That's the guarantee that we give. And if that is breached, come to us. High Court is here. Is that all? I think, you don't want to go home.
So first of all, thank you so much for making your presence here. It really means a lot. So my question this evening is, do students have any constitutional grounds to demand greater representation in the university decision-making committee, like academic councils or maybe any other representative matters?
Oh, lovely. Now, you are asking for a constitutional right? No. These are called statutory rights. Now, there are constitutional rights which emanate out of the Constitution. There are statutory rights which emanate out of acts. As I said, every statute, every law has to abide by the Constitution. Now, administration of a university is governed by the respective statutes, law. For example, the Indian Maritime University, I'm sure, has a statute. Do you have a statute? So, you will have the Indian Maritime Act. Is it called that? The University Act. That delineates what your rights are and what your duties are. Suppose there is a right which is contrary or a provision which is contrary to the Constitution. Suppose it says that a student must do this which is in violation of the constitutional right. For example, you have the right to speak, you have the right of expression, Article 19(1)(a). Suppose the Indian Maritime University Act says no student can speak in the campus. You can then challenge that in the court and say that that is contrary to the Constitution. But your question of representation is something which the statute provides. Now, if the statute says students will have no representation at all, it's a matter that will come to us and we will decide whether that again answers the constitutional requirements. So, does the Constitution provide you that you will have representation in every forum? No, it does not. But then we have to read into it. The Constitution is so flexible, it is so lucidly worded that we can interpret it by the times. So what was wrong yesterday may be right today because the Constitution allows interpretations by courts going by the times. You get the point? So it's a statute that governs, your question is based on the statute that governs the institution. For example, the Mahatma Gandhi University Act, we have the Kerala University Act. They are all perhaps verbatim. But with the new, the enterprise of the government, which I hear on the news, with foreign universities coming in, let's see what happens. It's going to be a different ballgame. So that's it. Everybody's happy. You want me to stop and run? Okay. Thank you, Liz. Thank you for the opportunity. It's great.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful and thoughtful address. Your words have truly illuminated the significance of our Constitution and its enduring relevance in today's world. We now have the privilege of honoring our Honorable Mr. Justice David Ramchandran, sir, with the memento as a token of appreciation. I request our Director of the campus, retired Rear Admiral S.S. Haramanda, sir, to please present the memento. I now request Anirudh from BSc Nautical Science to deliver the vote of thanks.
Honorable Justice Mr. David Ramchandran, Campus Director, Retired Rear Admiral Satyanarayana Alamanda sir, Dr. Arvind sir, Dr. Rajeshwari ma'am, Yoga ma'am, esteemed faculty members, and other respected guests, and my dear friends. A warm good evening to one and all present here. It is my honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this special occasion. First and foremost, I extend my deepest gratitude to our Chief Guest, Honorable Justice David Ramchandran sir, for gracing us with his presence. Your words of wisdom have truly enlightened us and inspired. I extend my sincere appreciation to our campus director, retired Rear Admiral S.N. Alamanda sir. Thank you sir for guiding us and being a part of this event. A heartfelt thank you to Dr. Rajeshwari ma'am for her presence and contribution to this gathering. Thank you ma'am. I would like to thank our nodal officer Dr. Arvind sir for coordinating this event. I also take this opportunity to thank our beloved faculty members, non-teaching staff, and the organizing team for their efforts in making this event a success. Last but not the least, a special note of appreciation to all the students present here for their enthusiastic participation. Thank you all. Once again, I extend my deepest gratitude to everyone present here. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Anirudh, for the wonderful vote of thanks. And with that, we conclude our celebrations of the 75th Constitution Day. We hope that today's event has inspired all of us to reflect on the values enriched in our Constitution and reframe our commitment to upholding them in our daily lives. Jai Hind.